Well, welcome to my channel Mispronounced Adventures. My name's Alex and welcome to a video working with Jackery. And it's at that time of year again where I'm between Arctic trips and I have an Arctic trip and a new van build coming up, so I'm looking to work with partners. But anyway, I like working with power stations. I've spent years using them now, from making electric stand-up paddle boards, bike adventures, e-bike camping adventures, cooking. I just think this is brilliant. Now, I generally do have practical uses for power stations. I've been using them every day for years now, and I think they're a key part of my Arctic van kit, which is to have a full backup electrical system with me, in addition to my traditional electrical system in my van. And it gets used. When I had my alternator fail in the Arctic, I used a power station to power the van.
So if you can see it down there, I've got the power station plugged into my AC to DC chargers for charging the starter battery.
And numerous times when components are frozen, I've lain under the van using a power station to run a heat gun to defrost parts. Or used it for some electrics. Well, power stations have their use. Need to do some of the heat shrinking for the electrics, and it's currently -20 in the Arctic. And plenty more things. And since I've looked at so many different brands and models, I've got quite a good idea of what's different and new in them. And this is the Jackery Explorer 500 V2. It's only the second time I've worked with Jackery. I recently looked at Jackery Explorer's bigger brother, the 1000 V2, and I had the opportunity to give away one of the smaller 240 V2s. This time they've asked me to have a look at the new Explorer 500 V2. Now, Jackery was actually the first power station I ever used, long before I actually worked with them. I borrowed an old Jackery Explorer 500 and I used that for quite a while. Back when I used to run and manage a Christmas tree site for many winters. Particularly, I use it for charging my drill batteries and tool batteries during the day and running the site lights in the evening. But times moves on and technology moves on, so let's have a look at the new V2 because they've refreshed a lot of the Jackery line with their new version 2s. Well, this isn't going to be a long unboxing video. User manual, orange charging cable, and the unit itself. They don't really mess around when it comes to packaging. The 500 V2. Well, quick anatomy. You've got all your usable ports on the front. On the side, you've got your inputs, so both for your DC and your AC, which we'll talk about later. Back is blank. And on the other side, you've got the ventilation, and I can see some fans there, so when you get hot, you've got through flow air for cooling. Bottom, you've got your standard sticker, which tells you about all the specs of the unit, and some rubber feet. And the top, nice and flat with a carbon fibre imitation top, and your fold away handle. Pretty simple, really. Screen wise, keeping it simple with percentage, in and out wattage, and then voltage in hertz for the inverter. Don't worry about the flickering, that's just the camera refresh rate, not the screen itself. First off, I find the 500 or the half kilowatt size power stations a bit of a strange area. My preference has always been the 1000s, the 1 kilowatt hour stations. I think there's a great balance between inverter output and battery storage. And I also like the small ones, things like the 240 or 250 watt hour. The 500's a little bit in the middle for me, but we'll go through its features. One, it is quite a small unit and an easy carry handle, quite stackable and storable, so it has that going for it. Far nicer design than the older models, which had the really big handle and made it a bit awkward. So where does this size fit in? For me, it's going to be running high-powered USB items. You've still got a 100-watt USB-C, which is great for charging my MacBook, which I do all my editing on, and a 30-watt, which is great for charging phones and iPads, as well as your normal USB-A as well. For laptop charging, enough size that you've got a decent amount of capacity to keep it going, especially if you're doing things like me, such as video making and rendering, which takes up quite a bit of power. Right, let's carry on looking at output options. You've got your standard 12-volt, 10-amp socket to run things like your car inflator. Now, for the inverter, it's a 500-watt continuous output inverter, which isn't going to be enough to do things like induction stoves, or air fryers, or heat guns, and nor does it really have the capacity for that either. But it is going to be quite good at like a light utility. As I've already mentioned, charging laptops and stuff is fine, but it's also going to charge obscure things, like my MyRider, or my drill batteries. It's a perfectly adequate size, both for inverter output and capacity to run things like that. 512 watt hour capacity in a 500 watt inverter is the kind of perfect middle ground for appliances with small power demands, or those sort of devices which have got AC plug-in only battery chargers. Now, one of the other great uses I've found in the past with portable power stations is portable diesel heaters. And I've spent plenty of time in the Arctic running my portable diesel heater when I've needed it off power stations. Inside, it's running off the power station and my little diesel jerry can down there. So give it 5 minutes, come back and have a look. Which is another good use for the inverter. Normally, the 12-volt socket on power stations isn't enough for the startup of a diesel heater. Many of the portable diesel heaters come with an AC to DC power supply, which you can plug into the inverter, and after the initial startup current of about 120, 150 watts, the power consumption drops low, and even on the Jackery Explorer 500 V2, you'd have hours of runtime. There we go, portable heat with portable power. Next up, charging. There's no point in being able to run all these items off the inverter and laptops if you can't charge this thing. So with a 500 output inverter, it's also got a 500 watt charge speed, and that will give you 0 to 100 in 1.3 hours, which is significantly faster than the original Explorer 500, which was 7.5 hours. And when it's also up like this, it's a UPS, which means an uninterrupted power supply. So if you had something plugged into the inverter and there was a power cut, the Jackery would take over most of the time before the piece of equipment would realise there was a power cut, which could be useful for people with CPAP machines. Now, it does also have a DC input as well, which could be used for charging off the dashboard via a plug-in socket or for solar charging. But it is not currently conditioned to be showing solar charging. Never mind, I was actually lucky enough to get the sun to come back out again, just as I was about to finish filming. And it can accept up to 200 watt of charging from solar. And well, that's the other way to charge it. Just like when charging any power station, it's really important to check the VOC output voltage of your solar panels to make sure it's within specs of the solar port before plugging it in. And if need be, you can also have it charging from the AC and the solar or another DC source at the same time to bring the charge rate up to just under an hour. One of the other new features is the energy saving button. So if you accidentally leave DC on or AC on, AC the inverter does have a standby usage, or you have a low current device, if you have it on energy saving mode, it will eventually turn those off so they don't deplete the battery if they're left on by accident. And they've also kept the light. And unlike the larger Jackery Explorer 1000 V2, it doesn't have the app. For me personally, that isn't a big loss. I generally don't use the apps that much for power stations. So you've just got a rather simple base unit and not have to faff around with any extra apps. But overall, it's a significant upgrade from the original Jackery Explorer 500. It's lighter, it's swapped out the NCM lithium chemistry to LiPo4 lithium chemistry, which gives it a significantly longer lifespan, and now it's at 512 watt hours. So for me, I prefer the larger ones, but if you're after a light duty and the original 500 Jackery was the perfect size for you, the version 2 is probably a worthwhile upgrade. If you want to find more about the Jackery unit or any of the other models such as its bigger brother, which I've looked at, check out some of the links in the description below. And thank you again, Jackery, for working with me. I enjoy looking at all the different varieties of power stations over the last couple of years, and I know which ones work for me. And more importantly, as I said earlier, collaborations like this, because you guys have watched the channel and made it grow over the last couple of years, means I get to work with companies which help support all the free content I make, like the Arctic trips.
Which is going to be a...
and the new van build coming up. And if you like tech stuff, consider checking out some of my other power station videos, or any of my other tech reviews from diesel heaters, water heaters, and a variety of other bits and bobs, or 4 winters of Arctic content. But finally, if you want to learn more about the Jackery Explorer 500 V2, check out the link in the description below, or any of their other products, check out their website or some of my other videos. But thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye!